Welcome to week 3 of Woven Together, our series of short activity-based videos for a Lockdown Lent. This week's theme in the Bible study is the turning of the tables. That quite surprising story where Jesus goes into the temple, finds all sorts of things being committed in the marketplace, money being changed for extortionate amounts and animals being sold for even more extortionate amounts. And in a fit of zeal for his father's house, he makes a whip out of rope and turns over the tables and drives everything and everybody out. I can't imagine the dust and the mess and the people and the shouting and the complete bewilderment from the traders who've perhaps been doing this for a very long time, and the utter chaos. But most of all, the zeal, the absolute passion of Jesus, and the horror on his face probably to see all this going on. So I'd like to show you this week a way of engaging with the text that you might not have thought of before. In fact, it's quite a good way of engaging with any of these pieces of text that you might find a little bit difficult. And as a preacher for years, I've always been looking for ways that make that text a bit more accessible. So let me run this past you this week and see if you want to give it a go. Like me, you might wish that you were better at art. I always wanted to paint and draw, but not with very much success, and I was always a little bit disappointed with the results. But this week I found something that might help you and me to have some newfound artistic freedom. I sometimes used to wish I could have a huge, great big canvas and throw masses of paint at it and just express myself in a mass of colour. Something completely random and huge. But to be honest, it's not very practical, is it? You know, we don't live in a place where you can buy huge, great big canvases for next to nothing and masses of paint, and it's okay if you're an artist, but I'm not, and I haven't got a big garage floor to throw paint around on. So I need something that's a bit smaller and a bit easier to work with. This week, all you'll need is a pencil or a pen, just whatever you have to hand, and a piece of paper. You don't even need a big piece of paper. A small piece of paper works just fine. As part of my Lent studies and just trying to improve myself, this year I joined an art course at Wesley College, and we've been learning about James Smetham this week. He was a Methodist who taught at a Methodist college during the Victorian era. He was an artist who painted scenes from nature and from the Bible, scenery, and he was well known for his portraits, though I have to say he didn't make a very good living out of it. He was good at what he did, but when his own free time, he just doodled. He doodled little line drawings in his books and his journals. He drew tiny little pictures that were as small as postage stamp, and they were illustrations of verses of the Bible, sometimes to reflect his life perhaps, or sometimes he did illustrations for books down the margins. They were so small, like I say, they were just the size of a postage stamp, and he would draw little squares and then just fill them in. It helped him work out his thoughts. So let me show you what I've been doing in the same vein this week. Here's another one I prepared earlier. These were just little squares, and I was given a Bible passage. This is Numbers 21, and I just drew some little pictures that came to mind. Now, you might not be able to see these very clearly, but I'll put these up at the end of this video so you can have a proper look at it. It's the story of the Israelites complaining in the desert to Moses, and they were worshipping snakes and idols, and the snakes came along and bit them, and Moses was told to make an effigy of a snake and put it on a pole. So that's what he did, and people who looked at it lived. So this was just my illustrating the story, if you like. I looked at the gospel reading for this next Sunday, and the gospel reading, like I say, is about turning the tables. So I just read that. It's John 2. And that was my little scribblings. They're not very good, but you know, they weren't designed for everybody really. They were just for me to work it out. There's a little whip and some animals and Jesus driving them out, the tables upside down. There's no right or wrong to this. You could just have a go and see what comes out of it. Now, if you're feeling a little bit more ambitious, you could try something else. This is something I did a while back when we lived in Earlham. This is called Zentangle, and I think it came from Japan, but don't hold me to that. You take a 3-inch square So what I did was I drew around a coaster, and then you make a little picture within that square. So again, it's a small space that you have to fill, because I think sometimes if you want to draw a picture and you're faced with a big piece of paper, I don't know about you, but I don't know where to start. And I have to fill it all in, and I can't because it's just too much. I'm the same with the colouring books. The little tiny colouring books I'm okay with, but the big ones are just too much for me. So what you do is you draw a square, you randomly squirrel a line through it, and then you start filling it in. You can take as long as you like. Some of these took me ages, and again I'll show you these at the end of the video, and some were very therapeutic. This one I did was based on 2 Timothy 3 verse 16. It was about all scripture being God-breathed, and this is why I've done, this says ruach here down the side, and the trees bending over in the wind, and I didn't deliberately set out to do that, it's just what came into my mind as I did it. Here's another one. I've written Genesis on the bottom of that, but when I've gone back and looked at the reference, I've no idea what the pictures were. They were just things that came out at the time. Let me quickly show you some others. This one here was nothing more than me looking out of my conservatory window. We had a trellis with a fig climbing up it and one of these Virginia creepers that went beautiful and red. Just a very, very detailed one I did there. That took me ages, but I had no end of fun just drawing little bits. This one Thomas and I did. We were thinking about the seaside, and he did the yellow submarine on it, so I'm guessing we were at Southport when we did that, and somewhere near Liverpool. And this one Thomas did. It's lovely, isn't it? And that actually is Psalm 19, which is the allotted psalm for this week as well. And let me tell you what that says. It's about the heavens proclaiming the glory of God. And so, how wonderful is that? He just drew it all and then very carefully coloured it all in with felt tip pens. Let me show you what to do now before we move on. Like I say, just get a coaster, draw around it if you want to do this type of thing. And then you can either draw a wiggly line inside that so it's not got such sharp edges. I might do that. And then just draw some random lines across it, in and out of the circle, the square rather, so it breaks it up a little bit. I'll have a go at this later, and I'll post this one up and see what comes out of this. And then just set to, all you need is a pen. I've just got a little rollerball pen here, a little felt tip pen or a pencil or just a biro. You don't need any expensive equipment at all. It might be a good idea if you started journaling at the beginning of this series, why not illustrate your journal with some little boxes, as I did with this Bible story, and just line drawings of your thoughts. You could ponder over a Bible passage or a verse. It might be a good way of letting your mind just mull over difficult passages, or just to ask God, what am I doing? Where am I going today? God could speak to you through your drawings, and I think sometimes that's surprising, isn't it? In fact, it's a good way to take your mind off all your worries and free your mind up actually, so God can whisper things to you through your work. It may be a really good way to actually process the journey we're travelling this Lent, or help you make some decisions. I know sometimes when I'm not sure what I'm doing, I like to draw things in my journals, just little line drawings like this, and it's amazing when I look back what I actually see. Or maybe you can just do this to have some fun, because don't forget, Jesus wanted to enrich our lives and give us some joy. So I hope you have some fun this week doodling, and I'll see you next time. Take care until then.